Hello and welcome to the second educational series presented and sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Barlet and I'm with the Area Agency on Aging and your host for the show. The second series is Are You and Your Home Ready for Winter? Today's segment is Winter Emergency Prevention / Preparation. And my guest today is Mike Drumheller, and Mike is with Berks Community Action Program, or otherwise known in our area as BCAAA. So Mike, thank you for being here with us today. And I think we've got a lot of good items to discuss, so we're going to get right into this. I want to say, what would you say is the first thing on your list there in terms of winter emergency prevention and preparation?
Well, the first thing is make sure you have your heating system serviced and cleaned. Okay, because it's been setting all summer long in the basement all by itself,
Well.
you know, feeling a little left out, you know, so it may have some problems, you know. So what you want to do is make sure every year, if you can, at least have your heating system serviced by a professional certified technician.
Okay.
To make sure the heating system is running properly, making sure there's no problems with like your heat exchangers or any kind of cracks in the system that will leak any kind of carbon monoxide into the home. Also, make sure the chimney's not blocked. What happens over the summer months, we have birds, we have squirrels, we have all kinds of other animals that will build nests in your chimneys.
Okay.
Okay, and you don't realize that. You turn your heating system on, all of a sudden all the carbon monoxide is backdrafting into your home. So you want to make sure that everything's drafting and running properly in your home.
Okay. All right.
That's one thing we always encourage, you know, that is number one there. And also when you're doing this, and it has been done, make sure you require an efficiency test done on your heating system. There's technicians that come out there and do a cleaning and everything else, but I would ask them to make sure a heating and efficiency test has been done and all the tests to make sure everything is running properly.
So it's something we really want to make sure we ask them. It's not part of we shouldn't assume that it's part of that, testing.
But something you want to keep in mind. I can show one of the pictures here. The first picture will actually show what we mean by about having an efficiency test done and inspected on the home here. There you see is one of our technicians. He's running all the tests, checking all the safeties. Now this is a gas heating system here, so he's checking gas pressure, making sure there's no gas leaks in the home also, and checking to make sure everything is running properly. The second picture here is on another type of heating system, and this is this is Steve Rimby, my auditor. This is an oil-fired system here. What he's doing is checking to make sure the draft is running properly and the efficiency is all good there. So things you want to do to make sure your heating systems are running properly, because you don't want it to break down in the middle of the night. That's one thing you don't want to happen here. You
don't want to wake up freezing in the morning.
And another thing is, if you have radiators, you might want to go around and make sure they're all getting warm and make sure the radiators are bled. So if you're getting your heating system serviced, the service technician also should check that for you too. You know, to make sure that everything is warming up properly.
Okay, good. And that's certainly a good preparation. As we head into winter. Okay. The next thing that you'd like to share in terms of what should we be checking, doing?
Okay. One thing, if you have if you're still using oil heat, we can show that picture right away. I'm going to explain to you
what we're looking at.
What we're looking at here, because it'll make it a little easier here. Check your oil tank gauge frequently in the wintertime. A lot of people never go down that basement and look at the oil tank. As you can see there, that's an oil tank gauge. You see the little white little marker there? Okay, that is the marker that tells you how much oil you have in your tank. So that tank there is at about a quarter, just a little bit above quarter tank.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you never run out of oil, because what happens when you run out of oil? Well, you get costly repairs. It could burn out your pump. It could cause other damage to your heating system, and therefore you're going to have another expense besides just getting oil. And remember, E on the gauge does not mean enough. We try,
and we don't want to see E on the gauge, right? We want to
you
make
never,
sure it's above E.
Right. You never let it run out. And if you're getting low on oil, you may want to just turn it off until you get fuel, because that way you won't have that costly expense of getting a prime and start, is what we call it, to get your heating system restarted, and that could cost you up to $60. So that's $60 you could have saved yourself by just a little peace of mind by making sure you always have oil in your tank.
And my caution on that one is if you're turning it off because you want to get it, hopefully you don't have a large gap in time.
Right.
And some of that might be due to the lack of ability to pay. So we'll talk a little bit later about some programs, I think, that you can share with us that might help in that, right?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. And another thing also that we want to talk about here, for the winter months here, make sure, okay, a lot of people have radiators in their home, and they may have turned them off or got turned off during the summer months. Well, now that room is not getting any heat in there. So make sure your radiators are open. I believe we have a picture we can show of a radiator. I can show you exactly what we're discussing here. Okay, that little knob down there, okay, make sure that is turned open so the heat can actually get into the radiator. What could happen if that's turned off in the winter months and it's in a cold room, as you'll see in the second picture? Radiators freeze and break. And they're very, very, very costly. They'll get repaired if they can be repaired, if not replaced. As we can see that, I don't know if it's there or not, maybe not. But needless to say, make sure your radiators are open.
And that's also no matter what room. In other words, even if we're living in a few rooms out of a larger home and we're not using the other rooms often at all, we don't turn those off either. We keep those also open and on.
Right,
okay. And
right.
Now we have that
there it is. As you can see there, on that one right there in the back there, that's how they break. Big pieces just break right out of them because of the water inside not being heated. So radiators are very, very expensive to replace, and not just that, you'll have water damage in your home. So you have
so there's another expense.
Another expense, and a lot of times homeowners insurance does not cover that. So that's something to keep in mind there.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now, as we talk about, keeping things open, keeping efficient heating, doing that preparation, I know some folks, whether it's getting low on the oil, or they've closed off some rooms, or they thought that they would turn down the heat to not pay as much. We end up also looking at space heaters and some other things that people tend to be using. So can you talk about that for us?
Sure can.
Give us some good information.
Yeah, well, we sort of frown on space heaters, especially a fossil fuel type of space heater, kerosene, LP gas, especially if they're unvented. Kerosene heaters are very, very dangerous in a home. By using them, you could cause a carbon monoxide problem in your home. It will, it will just eat up the oxygen in the air, so therefore it could cause issues there. I believe we have a picture of a unvented space heater here, what we're talking about. But it's very, very dangerous to actually operate these kind of systems here. As you can see, there's a unvented gas space heater. And what happens, they make nice heat.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that in the wall there?
It's in the wall, yes, but it's not.
So it's unvented.
It's unvented
because they just placed it in there.
The wall, yeah. Now you can purchase these that they do have vents that they will vent outside, and they are safe to operate.
And is that something then that if I want to do that, I really should get a professional to install that rather than me trying to put it in myself?
Yes, because you have to have a gas line installed, and you have to have the venting hooked up properly. So, but like I said, we discourage the use of them unless, as I said, if they're vented to the outside. And if you're using electric space heaters, okay, for instance, just make sure you use the precautions, make sure there are no drapes around them, make sure they're in safe areas. And as we were talking about this yesterday, a lot of them now come with safety shutoffs. So make sure if you have an older space heater, maybe that's 10 years or older, you might want to consider getting a safer, more efficient space heater that has the emergency shutoffs. If it gets knocked over, it will shut off itself. If something gets covered over, it will, or overheat, it will also shut off.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm picturing, again, we're trying to save, so maybe they turn down the heat a little bit and they're a little chilly and maybe they have a couple of layers on, but we're sitting right by the space heater and it's warm and it's inviting, and we end up falling asleep with that on, and that's my concern, that it's really on all the time. And as you said, maybe I was reading the newspaper and that fell next to me, or the cat, whatever, or the dog, or whatever, and gets knocked over, or just stays on and runs, and that is a concern, I think. So I think it's great that the devices, that there are some out there, and it's worth spending a little money now up front, even though the other one is working. To save in the long run, again,
for peace of mind. Yes, for peace of mind.
Safety.
Safety first is what we always encourage. And we, like I said, a lot of newer ones actually have timers on now.
Great.
That you can set them. They will be on for 30 minutes up to 9 hours. So you can set it that, it's like it will just shut off. That way, if you fall asleep, you'll be safe.
Good. Or, heaven forbid you leave it on when you leave the house.
Yeah,
something like that can happen.
Right, we encourage that not to be done, even though we do see it a lot. But therefore, if you would leave the house, it will shut off on its own, so you don't have to worry about coming home to a fire. And another thing with electric space heaters, never use extension cords, because they could overheat and then you could cause a fire also. So it's just those precautions that we want to help everybody out there.
And it's simple. We need to think.
Right, exactly.
What we're doing.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know if this is the right time when we're talking about heating and using space heaters and some other things, but sometimes we also hear about. And seniors do it. Others have done it too. I've read it where they've tried to help the heat in their home by putting on the oven.
That's a very good point to bring up there. That's one thing we discourage also, especially if you have a gas stove. A lot of people do that, and you're not only you're endangering a house by putting more carbon monoxide in a house by running that. They always used to say, at Thanksgiving, it's like from eating all the turkey, going to grandma's house and eating all the turkey and everything else used to make you tired. No, it was the old gas stove she had. Okay? It was putting a lot of carbon monoxide, making everybody a little bit more sleepier. But no, we really discourage the use of stoves to be used as a heating device. Okay. It's okay if you're going to put cookies inside and bake cookies.
I see.
Okay, but that's okay to do that.
But turn it off.
But turn it off after you're done. Yes.
Okay. Good. All righty. Where should we go from here in terms of? I think also we talked about heating and kind of.
Yes.
Preserving that heat with different avenues. What else in that?
Well, another thing to keep in mind, which a lot of people have newer heating systems, which are those what they call condensing units or direct vent units that vent to the outside through a side wall using a PVC pipe.
Yes.
I believe we have a picture of one here that we'd like to show here. If we could just see that. And what you want to do is make sure they're unblocked during the winter time. As you can see there, that's what we call the piping. It's a PVC pipe. One's an intake and one's the exhaust. Okay, now this one, when we install them, we set them up high enough the snow has to get pretty deep to get to it.
Okay.
But if you have snow fall off a roof,
or
something like that, or leaves or something this time of the year before you start using your system there, you want to check it to make sure there's no bird's nest in there, insect nest. A lot of time they build nests in there, will cause a problem there. So you want to make sure they're all clean, and if it snows a lot, make sure all the snow is cleared away there.
Yeah.
So no problems
And again,
happen.
as a precaution or a cautionary thing, hopefully if there's a senior out there, I want you to be safe too when you're going out there. And so obviously if you can go when there's just doing it ahead of time before snow is on the ground.
Right.
Certainly that's the best. And if it snows and you are afraid of snow blocking it, hopefully there's a neighbor next door that can help you out with that, so you're
Right.
safe trying to keep that clean. And,
Right, like I said, when we install them, we put them up high enough that way, but I have seen installs already where they put them really low to the ground where they're dangerously, could be an issue down the road. So just
good.
something to keep in mind, because people might think, well, I don't use my chimney, I don't have to worry about that. Well, you still have concerns because you
Right.
have anything that has a fossil fuel that has to be concerned of carbon monoxide.
Okay. And speaking of carbon monoxide, and you said about when we were talking about the oven and heating that way, let's talk about carbon monoxide. We again read and hear about people who have died from carbon monoxide poisoning because they're not realizing it.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
What do you wanna
carbon
share?
monoxide poisoning, one thing is a colorless, odorless type of, thing you will have in your home. You can't see it, you can't smell it, which makes that much more dangerous. What happens a lot of time, it builds up at nighttime when you're in bed and could cause problems. Or over the daytime, if you're at home, if you have a crack in your heat exchanger, it's a hot air system, gets a crack in it, that will then leave carbon monoxide into the home, or a blocked chimney or something like that. Some of the signs of carbon monoxide poisoning could be like a dull headache, weakness, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, confusion, blurred vision, or also loss of consciousness. If you have any of those signs, the typical one is dull headaches, is what we find from a lot of people. That haven't had a headache all summer long, but now it's wintertime, I'm getting a dull headache. All right, so you may want to have your heating system inspected. It could be a flu, but you want to make sure it's not. Okay, flus, okay, you can get a shot for a flu. Carbon monoxide poisoning, you can't.
Well, and also when you were saying some of these other things could also be signs of some other medical issues.
Right.
And even that, don't ignore those signs, even if it's not the carbon monoxide poisoning, but a medical issue. Please don't, wait days and try and see that you're going to be better or not. You want to seek that kind of medical help. So let's seek this kind of help by recognizing those signs. Let's repeat the signs again real quick, if you will, Mike.
Sure, yeah. As I mentioned, a dull headache, which is one of the top signs that we find with people. Weakness, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, confusion, blurred vision, or loss of consciousness are the top signs if there's a carbon dioxide problem in your home.
And so who do we call?
Well, if you have those type of signs or something like that, as I mentioned, you might want to check with your heating technician. Okay. Now, if you're on a fixed income, okay, and you cannot afford to have your heating system, or you think there is an issue or your heating system is actually broke down, there is an emergency program through the Light Heat Crisis Program, which BCAAA operates the emergency repairs. Their number there is 610-736-4228. If you don't have a light heat application in, you can actually get one filled out now for fuel assistance and for emergency repair of your heating system.
Okay.
So be on the safe side. If you have any of these signs, you may just want to have someone check this out.
And so you said my heating technician. So again, that's if I have a contract, but what if I don't?
And as I said, if you're income eligible, if you're on a fixed income, okay, and if you're already receiving a light heat assistance, okay, and you have a problem with your heating system,
And that's low income.
Home energy, low income home energy assistance program. Okay. If you're already receiving fuel assistance, okay, you're automatically eligible for emergency repairs of your heating system.
Okay.
Now, we don't do cleanings through the crisis program, so we don't do really maintenance. We're only allowed to come out and do emergency repairs if there's a life-threatening situation or the heating system stopped working. Okay. And another thing we want to advise everyone to do is make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors. Smoke detectors, they come in a combination now. You can buy carbon monoxide smoke detectors. We encourage that everyone has at least one in their home. Through the weatherization program, we put one on every floor of the house. for safety reasons. But make sure, and this is the time of year, if you do have some, make sure the batteries are still good. I always love going into homes and you hear a chirp in the distance. Okay, it's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's my carbon monoxide detector that needs a battery. You know, so we encourage people go around. The battery should be changed every year. If you don't have any, local fire departments offer them. The month of October is usually fire prevention month, so local fire companies will come out, and if you're a senior, they might even install it for you because they want to make sure you're safe also.
And again, because you're installing it, you know, so you're typically having to get on some kind of step stool or ladder that could be unsafe, particularly if you're living by yourself, you know, to have to get up and use your hands to hold and to install and whatnot. You want to make sure it's done right.
Right, exactly.
You know, to make sure it's installed right. And then tested right before everything is before you finish. You mentioned about changing the battery. I think we always said twice a year when you're doing the fall back and the spring ahead when we're changing clocks, so we could do it. That's again another way of reminding us to
right,
change
exactly.
the batteries.
That was always one of the top reminders. Okay, when you change your clocks, change your batteries in your carbon monoxide detector or smoke detector. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. And if you have a detector that's older than 5 years old, you may want to consider replacing it. The reason is why after a period of time, the elements in there that the sensors get corroded, get dust on them, so they may not activate as soon as they should. Okay, it may be too late until they go off. So it's always a good idea to have a new one every 5 years.
And certainly, I can find those again in a regular.
Yes,
hardware store.
Yeah, any home improvement store, any place like that, you can get them. And again, they're fairly inexpensive compared to what they were in the past.
And if I already have I have my smoke detectors, but now I'm thinking I need to get a carbon monoxide detector. And let's say I can only get one at a time. And where's the best place to put that one?
Usually what we recommend where you're going to sleep at night.
Okay.
Okay. Your bedroom areas.
Okay.
Okay. In the hallway, in other words, if you can only afford one, and if you have 2 or 3 bedrooms on the second floor, put it in the hallway there at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
Okay, that way the carbon monoxide is coming up the stairs, it will set that unit off. A lot of people put them in the basement.
Yes.
Which is okay, but you won't hear it on the 3rd or 2nd floor. That's the only problem. Or if you're in the living room and had the TV on because you have it up a little loud, you won't hear that.
You still might not hear it,
yeah, so we usually put them like in the living room area, 2nd floor and the hallway there, and also the 3rd floor if it's being used as a bedroom.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that information.
Yeah.
All righty. What else can we do? We've talked about a lot of things, but how about you mentioned something briefly about insulation in terms of putting that. I know we talked about insulation in the basement or doing some of those things. So.
Well, another area of concern is really what we've been finding out. Now, the last 2 winters, we had some extremely cold winters. Yeah. And what we've been finding that people had a lot of frozen pipes and their water bills went out the wall and didn't know why, just out the roof, didn't know why. What you want to do is check to make sure that your basement windows and doors are closed where your pipes are near so they don't freeze. What we find out, I'm going to show, if we can see a picture here of a crawl space. Where your pipes generally freeze are underneath your sinks, crawl spaces, or if you live in a manufactured mobile home type of situation there, where your pipes will freeze. So what you want to do is avoid that. As you can see, this is a damaged basement.
Yes.
Okay, all the pipes broke and froze over the winter here because a window was left open in the basement. Unfortunately, it tore all the insulation down, all the pipes broke, and it was a mess. The second picture there is after the repair. As you can see now, we repaired the insulation and we start wrapping the pipe. The pipe to the right there is wrapped, the pipe to the left is not wrapped yet, just to see the difference there. You can see the copper and it's not wrapped. That needs to be wrapped. But when pipes start breaking, it gets very, very, very costly, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. If you live in a manufactured home or if your pipes freeze a lot, you may want to consider getting heat tape on the pipes. Okay. To keep that going. Another thing we have found out where people have outside faucets.
Yes.
With hoses hooked up, and they were using the hose to water their garden all summer long, and it's winter time, and I'm not using the hose no more. Well, they left the hose connected to the faucet. What happens, the water freezes in the hose, freezes back into your faucet and breaks the pipe of your faucet, and then all of a sudden all the water is either leaking into your basement, filling up your basement, causing a major problem, or the backyard turns into an ice skating rink.
Yeah.
And the thing is, no one notices it for months until they get their water bill. Why did my water bill go from $80 to $300? Okay, and unfortunately, the water companies don't have no forgiveness programs for that type of thing. So make sure you go around. You have any outside faucets. Some homes have that you can turn the faucet off inside the basement. You might want to consider that, but make sure that your hoses are disconnected so no freeze-ups will happen. Like I said, I have seen it already where people just said my water bill is like I don't know why, and they never went out back to look, or they didn't go in the crawl space because it's in a crawl space and the water's leaking, so you will never see it.
Or we can't crawl into the crawl
Or
space.
a lot of people can't get to their basements,
or
or don't have that, and if you can't do this yourself, make sure maybe have a neighbor or a family member check on this stuff for you. Is what we encourage.
Good. And a last kind of prevention.
Well, another thing we run into, okay, now it's summer, winter time, you might be using your dryer more often. During the summertime, they may have been hanging up clothing, or maybe not. But what you want to do, though, is make sure the lint traps are cleaned after every use of your dryer. Make sure, I think I have a picture of here, the last picture.
Good.
As you can see, it's the outside dryer vent, the little flapper hood. All right. The reason why they have the flapper on there is to keep animals out, but what also happens, they have screens on them and they get filled with lint. So therefore, you might be cleaning your lint trap inside, but the outside is being blocked, and so therefore the warm air cannot go out, so it's blocking up, and which can cause a fire eventually. This does not only help save on your electric bill for drying the wash, but also will stop and prevent any kind of fires. We see this a lot in homes where they have dryer fires and things like that. So this is just another little prevention there. And if you're using those dryer sheets, a lot of people use them. Everybody uses them. Okay, they're a wonderful thing. They make your clothes static free, nice and fluffy. But the chemical in them gets on that filter on your trap filter and blocks it. So the air cannot flow through it properly. So we recommend that every now and then you take that out and wash it with warm soapy water just to get that clean. That's just another little tip there that will also increase the efficiency of your dryer, but also will prevent a fire.
Yeah, and that's a simple tip we can do. All right, very good. I can do that one. All righty. And last, in the few minutes that we have left, again, I want to make sure that if folks have further questions or didn't catch some of these things, they can contact you, Mike. We've got Mike Drumheller with us from Berks Community Action Program, or BCAAA. Why don't you tell us about that phone number or any other emergency numbers, important things for us should something happen that we didn't prepare for or prevent.
Well, another tip we do have, if you smell gas in your home, please call UGI Gas Utilities immediately. They have an emergency phone number on your gas bill. Make sure you have that number handy at all times. At any time you smell any kind of gas, they will come out, no charge, and check your home for you. So that's one there. Another one is our phone number for BCAAA weatherization. If you have any questions regarding anything we spoke about today or would like more information, feel free to give us a call at 610-375-9770.
And you help to manage some programs for folks that are either in a crisis situation or in a situation where something may have occurred, right?
Right, that would be the crisis program, and that number there would be 610-736-4228. They will process the applications and forward them to BCAAA.
Great, well thank you. I'm sure we've covered many things for us to keep in mind, to do, to prep our home, to hopefully prevent disasters, whether it's pipe breaking, fire, carbon monoxide poisoning, etc., by tuning into our program today on winter emergency prevention and preparation as part of our series, Are You and Your Home Ready for Winter? Thank you.